The moon had always been humanity's first step to the stars. Now it was their last stronghold above Earth. Commander Su-Jin Kang crept through the damaged corridors of Armstrong Base. The lunar colony had fallen 3 days ago, but she and her resistance fighters refused to surrender. The hegemony forces controlled the main sections, but humans knew these tunnels better. "Stay low," she whispered to her team. The alien occupiers walked in perfect formation, always in groups of 6. They never varied their patrol routes. That predictability would be their downfall. Su-Jin's team struck fast. Improvised weapons made from mining equipment caught the aliens off guard. The invaders were stronger and better armed, but they moved like machines. When humans did something unexpected, the aliens hesitated. That hesitation was enough. On Earth, the situation grew desperate. The hegemony bombardment had destroyed major cities. Their ships hung in the sky like metal clouds, raining destruction on any sign of resistance. But humanity had learned from centuries of warfare. They knew how to hide, how to survive. Deep beneath the ruins of Seoul, Sergeant Min Ho-yoon trained new recruits. The Marine had survived the first battles and discovered something important. Human soldiers could operate in conditions that confused the aliens. They like order, Min-ho explained to his squad. Their whole society is based on everything having a place, following exact rules. But humans? We're messy, we adapt. We break rules. That's our advantage, he demonstrated with a captured alien weapon. The device was sophisticated, designed to be used in a specific way. But Min-ho had figured out 12 different ways to use it, including several the aliens never intended. They build tools for one purpose. We see possibilities they can't imagine. Engineer Jun Han worked in a hidden laboratory, surrounded by alien technology salvaged from destroyed ships. The 28-year-old had always been good at taking things apart and putting them back together differently. Now that skill might save humanity. "Look at this," she told her team, holding up an alien power core. "Their technology is amazing, but it's rigid. Every piece has one function. But what if we combine it with human creativity?" She connected the alien power core to a human-built weapon system. The result was crude but effective, a hybrid weapon that packed alien firepower with human flexibility. It was ugly, held together with welding and hope, but it worked. "We can't match their technology," June said, "but we can twist it into something they won't expect." Lieutenant Hyejin Choi led her fighter squadron in another desperate mission. The aliens had taken control of Earth's orbital space, but small human craft could still slip through if they were clever enough. And Hyejin was very clever. She had learned to fly in ways that defied logic, spinning wildly, cutting engines at crucial moments using gravity and momentum in combinations that made her stomach turn. The alien fighters flew in perfect formation with mechanical precision. They couldn't match human pilots who flew by instinct and feel. "Remember," she told her squadron, "they think in straight lines. We think in spirals. Use that." The raid was supposed to be impossible. Hit a supply depot on the occupied space station and get out alive. The aliens had calculated every possible approach and set their defenses accordingly. But they had calculated based on logical flight paths. Humans didn't fly logically. Hyejin's squadron came in from 6 different directions, each pilot flying like they were insane. They spun, dived, changed direction without warning. The alien defense systems, programmed for optimal efficiency, couldn't track the chaotic movements. The depot exploded in a brilliant flash. More importantly, Hyejin's team captured intact supplies and data cores. Every small victory mattered now. Dr. Minji Lee studied the captured alien communications with growing understanding. The Hegemony Alliance wasn't just one species, but 12, all following the same rigid structure. They had conquered most of the galaxy through superior technology and perfect coordination. But that's also their weakness, she explained to Admiral Kim. They've never faced an enemy like us. Every species they've conquered has either been less advanced or thought like them. Humans are different. She showed him intercepted messages between alien commanders. They were confused, even frightened. Human tactics made no sense to them. Soldiers who should surrender kept fighting. Civilians who should submit disappeared into the wilderness. Nothing went according to their calculations. "They call us the chaos factor," Minji said. "They have no protocol for dealing with us." On the moon, Su-Jin's resistance had turned into something bigger. Other pockets of human survivors joined her network. They shared information, coordinated attacks, and most importantly learned. The aliens used mind control on most species. a technology that made subjects compliant and orderly. But when they tried it on humans, something unexpected happened. Some humans resisted completely. Others pretended to be controlled while planning rebellion. A few even turned the mental connection back on the aliens, flooding their ordered minds with human chaos. Professor Jae-hyun Song made the breakthrough that would change everything. Working with volunteer test subjects, he discovered why humans were immune to full alien control. The human brain was uniquely plastic, constantly rewiring itself. What the aliens saw as disorder was actually adaptation in real time. Their minds are like crystals, he explained, perfect, ordered, unchanging. Human minds are like water, flowing, changing, impossible to grasp. This discovery led to the development of neural disruptors, devices that amplified human thought patterns. When activated near alien technology, the devices caused havoc. Systems failed, weapons misfired, and the aliens' perfect coordination shattered. Sergeant Minho led the first major ground offensive using these new tools. The target was a processing center where the aliens were trying to correct captured humans. The facility was heavily defended, protected by energy shields and automated defenses. But the aliens had prepared for an organized assault. They weren't ready for Minho's approach. His soldiers didn't advance in formation. Each moved independently, following their own chaotic path. Some crawled through sewers, others climbed ruined buildings. A few even used captured alien hoverbikes in ways that defied their design. Neural disruptors hidden on their bodies caused alien technology to malfunction at crucial moments. The facility fell in 3 hours. Hundreds of human prisoners were freed. And more importantly, the aliens' confidence was shaken. The hegemony had never lost a secured facility before. Across Earth, similar victories sparked hope. Humans emerged from hiding to strike at weak points. Engineer Jun's hybrid weapons gave resistance fighters a fighting chance. Commander Sujin's tactics spread from the moon to Earth as survivors shared hard-won knowledge. The aliens responded with increased brutality, but that only made humans more determined. Every attack taught the survivors new lessons. Every defeat of a human group spread their knowledge to others before they fell. In the command bunkers, Admiral Kim watched the tide slowly turning. Humanity was still losing, but now they were making the enemy pay for every victory. More importantly, intercepted communications showed cracks in the hegemony alliance. Some member species questioned the campaign against Earth. The resources spent to subdue one small planet were enormous. The chaos spreading from human resistance affected their operations in other sectors. The perfect order of the hegemony was showing its first fractures. 6 months ago, they thought we'd surrender in days, Admiral Kim told his staff. Now they're committing forces from across their empire just to hold what they've taken. Every human who fights, even if they fall, weakens them. Dr. Minji had decoded enough of their language to understand their frustration. The aliens had a word for humans now: unpattern. It meant something that couldn't be predicted or controlled. In their ordered society, it was the worst insult. But for humanity, it was a badge of honor. As Earth's resistance grew stronger, a message spread through the hidden networks. Painted on walls, whispered in tunnels, broadcast on hijacked frequencies. We are chaos. We are adaptation. We are humanity, and we will not yield. The Hegemony Alliance had expected to process Earth quickly and efficiently. Instead, they found themselves in a war unlike any they had fought before. A war where the enemy's greatest strength was their refusal to fight by the rules. The crucible of survival was forging humanity into something new. Something the ordered minds of the hegemony could never understand or defeat. The invasion that was meant to destroy them was instead teaching humans exactly how powerful chaos could be. The war had raged for 2 years. 2 years of hiding, fighting, and learning. Now humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they had become. Captain Taihee Ryu floated in the darkness of space, her strike team silent around her. They wore modified spacesuits, ugly combinations of human engineering and stolen alien technology, but they worked. That was all that mattered. Before them hung the hegemony dreadnought inevitable order, 3 kilometers of advanced alien warship, powerful enough to destroy cities. The aliens thought it was invincible. They were about to learn otherwise. Remember the plan? Taihee whispered over the comm. We're not trying to destroy it. We're taking it. Her team moved like shadows. The aliens relied on sensors and energy shields, perfect defenses against conventional attacks. But humans had learned to think differently. The boarding team used no power, no heat signatures. They drifted like space debris until they reached the hull. The cutting tools were Junhan's design. Alien plasma technology combined with human precision engineering. They carved through the armor in silence. By the time the ship's systems detected the breach, humans were already inside. The battle for the dreadnought was chaos. Taehee's team didn't move through the ship systematically. They scattered, each group causing different problems. Some cut power lines. Others introduced computer viruses that mixed human illogic with alien code. A few simply ran through corridors screaming and breaking things. The alien crew, trained for millennia in precise response protocols, fell apart. They couldn't coordinate against an enemy that didn't follow patterns. When they gathered to repel boarders in one section, explosions rocked another. When they tried to contain the computer viruses, life support failed in random compartments within 6 hours. The inevitable order belonged to humanity. On Earth, Dr. Sunwoo Jang made the discovery that would change the course of the war. The neurologist had been studying why some humans were completely immune to alien mind control. The answer was simpler and more profound than anyone expected. Human consciousness is fundamentally different, he explained to the gathered scientists and military leaders. The aliens think in hierarchies. Every thought has a place, a purpose, a connection to the whole. But human minds are networks of networks, constantly creating new pathways. He showed brain scans comparing human and alien neural patterns. The alien minds looked like perfect geometric structures. Human minds look like explosions of creativity. They can't control us because we don't think in ways they can understand. But more importantly, we can learn to disrupt their mental networks. We can turn their greatest strength, their connected consciousness, against them. Specialist Kyungmin Bae had already been working on this principle. The master of psychological warfare had noticed that captured aliens became distressed when exposed to human art, music, and literature. The randomness, the emotion, the pure creativity of human expression caused them actual pain. They live in a universe of order, Kyungmin explained. Human culture is chaos given form. Let's weaponize it. The broadcast began within days. Hidden transmitters pumped human content into space. Not military communications or propaganda, but art. Music that followed no mathematical pattern. Stories that ended in ways that defied logic. Images that showed beauty in disorder. The effect on the hegemony forces was immediate. Soldiers made mistakes. Commanders second-guessed orders. The perfect machine of their military developed stutters and hesitations. Some aliens, exposed too long to human concepts, began to question. If chaos could create such things, was order really superior? The doubt spread like a virus through their ranks. Captain Junho, now commanding a fleet of captured and modified ships, launched Operation Prometheus. The plan was audacious. Simultaneous strikes on 17 hegemony supply stations across the solar system. They expect us to concentrate our forces, he told his captains, to mass our strength against single targets. Instead, we scatter. We hit everywhere at once. Some attacks will fail, but that's part of the plan. The chaos itself is the weapon. The operation began at what humans called midnight, a concept that baffled the aliens who thought in standard galactic time. Human ships appeared everywhere, using stolen faster-than-light technology in ways the creators never intended. Some attacks were fierce assaults, others were feints. A few ships just flew in circles, broadcasting confusing signals. The hegemony command structure, designed to respond to logical threats, collapsed under the weight of processing 17 different chaotic situations. 11 supply stations fell. 4 human attacks failed completely, 2 achieved partial success. But the impact was total. For the first time in their history, the Hegemony Alliance had lost control of a battle. The captured Dreadnought, renamed Chaos Ascendant by its human crew, led the assault on the main Hegemony base near Jupiter. Captain Taehee had learned every system, every weapon, every capability of the massive ship. But she used none of them, as designed alien weapons meant for long-range bombardment were reconfigured for close combat. Defensive systems became offensive tools. The ship's perfect symmetry was ruined by human additions. Crude but effective weapons welded wherever they fit. The base commander later reported to the Hegemony Council that fighting the human-controlled Dreadnought was like fighting a wounded animal, unpredictable, savage, and terrifyingly effective. Lieutenant Hyejin, now commanding an entire wing of hybrid fighters, perfected the art of chaos combat. Her pilots learned to fly in patterns that hurt to watch. They used alien weapons in combinations that shouldn't work but did. They painted their ships in colors that had no tactical value but disturbed alien sensors. "Make them doubt," she told her pilots. "Make them hesitate. In that moment of confusion, we win." Dr. Minji Lee intercepted communications that showed the true impact of humanity's resistance. The Hegemony Council was fracturing. Member species blamed each other for the failure to contain humanity. Some suggested withdrawal. Others demanded more extreme measures. "They're afraid," she reported to Admiral Kim. "For the first time in their existence, they face something they can't predict or control, and that fear is destroying their unity." The liberation of Earth began with whispers. Resistance cells hidden for 2 years received the signal. Neural disruptors activated across the planet. Hybrid weapons emerged from hidden caches, and humanity rose. The battles were fierce but brief. Alien forces, already shaken by constant guerrilla attacks, faced a coordinated uprising unlike anything in their protocols. But it wasn't the coordination that defeated them. It was the controlled chaos. Human forces didn't advance in lines. They flowed like water, each unit moving independently but somehow achieving common goals. Alien strongholds designed to withstand siege fell to opponents who ignored conventional tactics. Sergeant Minho led the assault on the primary processing center in North America. The facility was a fortress protected by layers of defenses. The Hegemony had learned from previous attacks and prepared for human unpredictability. But they had prepared for the chaos humanity had shown before. Humans had evolved past that. The attack began with perfect military precision. Confusing defenders prepared for disorder. Then, just as the aliens adapted, the humans shifted to pure chaos. Then back to order. Then something in between. The constant changes broke the alien command structure's ability to respond. As Earth's skies cleared of hegemony ships for the first time in 2 years, Professor Jae-hyun made an announcement that rippled across human space. "We've cracked their FTL communications. We can send messages instantly across the galaxy. And I think it's time the rest of the universe heard what Earth has to say." The first message was simple, broadcast in every known language. Humanity stands. Humanity fights. And humanity remembers those who tried to destroy us. Across the galaxy, species under hegemony rule heard the impossible news. The chaos species, the contamination that was supposed to be cleansed, had not only survived but was winning. The perfect order of 10,000 years was crumbling before a species that had only just reached the stars. On the bridge of the Chaos Ascendant, Captain Tae-hee looked at the tactical display. Human forces now controlled most of the solar system. The hegemony was in retreat, their fleets pulling back to regroup. "They'll be back," her first officer warned. Tae-hee smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Let them come. They taught us to fight on their level. Now we'll teach them to fear ours." The turning tide had become a tsunami, and it was heading for the heart of the Hegemony Alliance. The hidden shipyards of the asteroid belt had been humanity's greatest secret. For 3 years, while Earth burned and fought, engineers and workers had built a fleet in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter. Fleet Admiral Changmin-oh stood on the observation deck, watching as the last ship received its weapons. 300 vessels, each one a mixture of human ingenuity and alien technology. They weren't pretty. They weren't uniform. But they were ready. The hegemony builds ships like they build their society, Engineer June explained, floating beside him. Every ship identical, every system standardized. Our fleet? No 2 ships are exactly alike. That's our strength. She was right. The human fleet was chaos given form. Some ships bristled with weapons. Others focused on speed. A few were designed for ramming, their hulls reinforced with salvaged alien armor. Each captain had helped design their own vessel, creating tools that matched their thinking. Ambassador Hee Jung-moon arrived on a ship that shouldn't exist, a hybrid of 4 different alien technologies held together by human stubbornness and creative welding. She brought news that would change everything. 3 species want to join us, she announced to the War Council. The Vec, the Solani, and the Rift Dancers. They've been under hegemony rule for millennia, but our resistance has given them hope. Admiral Kim studied the data she provided. Can we trust them? They're not human. They'll never think like us, Hee Jung admitted. But they've learned something from our example. They've learned that order isn't the only way. That's enough to start. The Liberation Alliance was born in that moment. Humanity would no longer fight alone. Colonel Yuri Shin prepared his special forces for the most ambitious operation yet. The hegemony had pulled back to fortified positions, creating a defensive line around their core worlds. They expected humanity to crash against these defenses like waves against stone. Yuri had other plans. "We're not going through their lines," he told his teams. "We're going around them, over them, under them, through dimensions they don't even monitor because no sane species would use them." The new FTL drives Professor Jaehyun had developed were insane by alien standards. They didn't move ships through space so much as convince space that the ship was somewhere else. The process was dangerous, unpredictable, and caused severe nausea. It was perfectly human. The counteroffensive began with confusion. Human ships appeared in impossible places. A fleet emerged inside a nebula that should have torn them apart. Another dropped out of FTL inside a planet's atmosphere. Something every species knew would destroy the ships. Except human vessels, reinforced with chaotic engineering, survived what should have killed them. Specialist Kyungmin Bae's propaganda campaign reached new heights. Human broadcasts didn't threaten or demand. They showed art, music, and stories. They showed humans and freed aliens working together. They showed a galaxy where different wasn't wrong. The effect was devastating. Hegemony worlds that had known only order for thousands of years suddenly faced questions. Young aliens, their minds more flexible, began creating their own art. It was crude and chaotic by human standards, but it was theirs. The hegemony responded with force, but crushing rebellion in 1,000 places at once was impossible. The more they tightened control, the more species slipped through their grasp. Captain Junho led the main fleet in a series of lightning strikes. The battles followed no pattern. Sometimes the humans fought with careful precision. Other times they attacked with savage fury. They might retreat from a winning position or press forward against impossible odds. The randomness wasn't random. It was calculated chaos, designed by minds that could hold contradiction without breaking. The hegemony commanders, trying to predict human behavior, made themselves vulnerable to the one thing humans did consistently: the unexpected. The liberation of Kepler Station showed how far humanity had come. The massive hegemony facility controlled trade routes for an entire sector. It was defended by a fleet twice the size of the human forces, but numbers meant nothing when the enemy couldn't predict your moves. Captain Taehee, commanding the Chaos Ascendant, led an assault that military historians would later call beautiful insanity. Ships flew through their own crossfire. Fighters docked with enemy vessels mid-battle to discharge troops. One human captain, his ship badly damaged, accelerated to ramming speed, then transported his entire crew to an enemy vessel at the last second, taking it from the inside as their empty ship caused chaos outside. The station fell in 18 hours. More importantly, its liberation freed 17 species who had been forced to serve the hegemony. Each species was different, thought different, fought different. The Liberation Alliance grew stronger with every victory. Dr. Sun Wu's neural warfare reached its peak effectiveness. Human thoughts broadcast through modified alien communication arrays created zones of confusion around battlefields. Hegemony forces entering these zones found their ordered minds under assault from concepts they couldn't process. Some aliens went catatonic. Others experienced something like enlightenment, suddenly seeing possibilities beyond order. A few even switched sides mid-battle, overcome by the desire to understand rather than suppress chaos. On Earth, now free but scarred, humanity prepared for the final phase. Factories that once built consumer goods now produced hybrid weapons. Artists became propaganda specialists. Teachers developed ways to help alien allies understand human thinking without losing their own identities. Admiral Kim, promoted to Supreme Commander of the Liberation Forces, coordinated attacks across 50 systems. But coordination was a loose term. Each fleet commander had broad goals and complete freedom in achieving them. Trust chaos became the unofficial motto. It worked. The Hegemony Council met an emergency session as their empire crumbled. The 12 ruling species blamed each other. Some wanted to negotiate. Others demanded total war. The unity that had been their strength for millennia shattered. Ambassador Hee-jung received a secret message from a faction within the hegemony. They wanted to discuss terms, not surrender. They couldn't conceive of that. But perhaps a new order, one that included chaos. They're learning. she told the human leadership. Slowly, painfully, but they're learning that their way isn't the only way. The counteroffensive reached its climax as human and allied forces converged on the hegemony core worlds. The defenses were formidable, layers of protection built over thousands of years, but they were designed to stop logical attacks. Colonel Yuri's special forces had already been on these worlds for weeks. They hadn't attacked or sabotaged. They had simply existed, spreading human ideas like a virus. Security systems designed to detect threats couldn't identify philosophers and artists as dangers. When the fleets arrived, they found the defenses in chaos, not destroyed but confused. Contradictory orders flew through command channels. Some defense platforms fired on their own forces. Others simply shut down, their operators paralyzed by doubt. The siege of the hegemony capital would have been bloody. Instead, it became a strange ballet of violence and communication. Fighting raged in some sectors, while in others, humans and aliens met to discuss philosophy. Ships exchanged fire and ideas in equal measure. Lieutenant Hyejin, now an admiral herself, led fighter strikes that painted human art across the sky even as they destroyed military targets. "We're not here to conquer," she broadcast. "We're here to liberate, even our enemies. Especially our enemies." The old order was dying, but from its ashes something new was being born. A galaxy where order and chaos could coexist, where different ways of thinking were strengths, not threats. Professor Jae-hyun made one final breakthrough. Using combined human and alien technology, he created a communication system that could translate not just words but concepts between species. For the first time, true understanding was possible. "We don't need to think alike," he announced. "We just need to understand that different thoughts have value." As human forces surrounded the hegemony capital, as the Liberation Alliance grew to include dozens of species, as the galaxy transformed, one truth became clear: humanity had won. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through the simple act of being human. Chaotic, adaptable, impossible. And they were just getting started. The stars had always been humanity's dream. Now they might become their grave. Captain Junho Park stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Prometheus, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The sensors showed something impossible. Hundreds of massive ships were entering the solar system, moving in perfect formation through the cold darkness beyond Neptune. "Sir, I'm counting over 300 vessels," Lieutenant Heejin Choi reported from her station. Her voice was steady, but Junho could see her hands trembling slightly. "They're using some kind of faster-than-light drive we've never seen before." Junho nodded, his jaw tight. Humanity had colonies on Mars and Jupiter's moons, but they had never encountered alien life. Until now. "Send the data to Earth Command. Admiral Kim needs to see this immediately." The alien fleet moved with frightening coordination. Each ship was enormous, dwarfing even humanity's largest vessels. They gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. On Earth, Dr. Minji Lee rushed through the corridors of the Global Defense Headquarters. The xenobiologist had spent her entire career preparing for first contact, but she had always imagined it would be peaceful. The images flooding her screen suggested otherwise. "They're broadcasting something," a technician called out as Minji entered the command center. Admiral Dongwook Kim stood at the center of the room, his weathered face grim. "Put it through the speakers," he ordered. The message that came through was in perfect, if oddly formal, English. "Species of Earth, you are addressed by the Hegemony Alliance, rightful rulers of this galactic sector. Your chaotic expansion and dangerous ideologies have been noted. You will surrender immediately for processing and integration. Resistance will result in your termination. You have one planetary rotation to comply." The room fell silent. Minji felt her heart sink. First contact, and it was a threat of extinction. "Processing?" she whispered. "What do they mean by processing?" Admiral Kim's expression darkened. "Nothing good. Get me a channel to their lead ship. Maybe we can negotiate." Professor Jae-hyun Song watched the events unfold from his laboratory on the moon. The physicist had been working on experimental propulsion systems, trying to give humanity true interstellar capability. Now it seemed they were too late. As Earth's leaders attempted to open dialogue with the aliens, Jae-hyun noticed something odd in the sensor readings. The alien ships generated an energy field that seemed to pulse in a regular pattern, But whenever human ships got close, that pattern wavered. Curious, he muttered, pulling up more data. Back on the Prometheus, Captain Junho received orders to approach the alien fleet slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions. The bridge crew was tense as they moved forward. Weapons powered down to show they meant no harm. "Sir, they're responding to our hails," the communications officer announced. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the first alien humans had ever seen. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were black pools that showed no emotion. It wore elaborate robes covered in geometric patterns. "I am Executor Vex of the Hegemony Alliance," the alien said. Its mouth didn't move in sync with the words, suggesting some kind of translation device. "Your species has been judged. You spread chaos. You value individual desires over collective order. You are a contamination that must be cleansed." Junho tried to keep his voice calm. "We seek peace. Surely we can find common ground. Humanity has no desire for conflict." The alien's expression didn't change. "Peace is acceptance of order. You creatures of Earth reject order. You change, you adapt, you spread unpredictable ideas. Other species have been infected by your transmissions, questioning the harmony we have maintained for millennia." "This cannot be allowed." The screen went dark. Moments later, alarm screamed across the ship. "They're charging weapons," Lieutenant Choi shouted. "Evasive maneuvers." Junho commanded, but it was too late. A beam of purple energy struck the Prometheus, shaking the entire vessel. Systems failed across the board. In seconds, what had been humanity's finest warship was reduced to drifting wreckage. Junho and some of his crew managed to reach escape pods, but many weren't so lucky. The first battle for Earth had begun, and humanity had lost badly. On Earth, panic spread as news of the Prometheus's destruction reached the public. Cities erupted in chaos. Some people fled to the countryside, others gathered in places of worship, and many simply stood in the streets, staring at the sky. Dr. Minji Lee worked frantically with her team, analyzing every bit of data from the brief communication. "They fear our diversity," she told Admiral Kim. "They see our individualism as a threat to their order." "Then we'll show them just how threatening we can be," the Admiral replied. He turned to his staff. "Activate all defense platforms. Recall every ship to Earth. If they want to fight, we'll give them one." But the battle near Jupiter showed how outmatched humanity was. The alien ships moved in perfect synchronization, their weapons devastating Earth's forces. Ship after ship fell to the superior technology. Lieutenant Hyejin Choi, one of the survivors from the Prometheus, had made it to a fighter squadron based on Europa. She watched in horror as the defense fleet was torn apart. But she noticed something the others missed. When human ships acted unpredictably, breaking formation or trying desperate maneuvers, the aliens took longer to respond. They're not used to chaos, she realized. Professor Jae-hyun Song made a similar discovery on the moon. He had been analyzing the energy signatures from the alien ships when a test subject, a volunteer from the defense forces, had entered his lab. The moment the soldier got near the alien technology samples recovered from debris, the energy patterns fluctuated wildly. "Fascinating," Jae-hyun breathed. He ran more tests, discovering that human brainwaves seemed to interfere with the alien technology. It was subtle, but it was there. Something about human neural patterns disrupted their systems. As Earth's outer defenses crumbled, Admiral Kim made a hard choice. "We can't win this fight." "Not yet." He looked at his assembled commanders. "Initiate Fortress Protocol. We go underground. We survive, we learn, and then we fight back." Across the planet, massive blast doors sealed. Hidden bunkers activated. Humanity's military forces disappeared into secret bases. Cities emptied as people fled to prepared shelters. The Hegemony Alliance swept through the outer planets, establishing bases and beginning their systematic conquest. They expected humanity to surrender after the display of superior force. Instead, they found empty cities and silence. From her underground bunker, Dr. Minji Lee sent a final message to the alien fleet. "You say we are chaos. You say we are contamination. Perhaps you're right. But chaos adapts. Contamination spreads. You've made a terrible mistake coming here." The aliens didn't understand the threat. To them, hiding was cowardice. They had won, they thought. But in the darkness below Earth's surface, humanity prepared. Engineers studied captured alien technology. Soldiers trained in new tactics. Scientists worked on ways to turn human unpredictability into a weapon. Captain Junho, recovering from his injuries in a medical facility deep beneath the Pacific, looked at the tactical reports. Humanity had lost the first round badly. Their fleet was destroyed, their colonies occupied. But something burned in his eyes that the aliens couldn't understand. Not rage, not fear, but determination. Humans had always been at their best when pushed to the brink. Now, with their very existence threatened, they would show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The war for Earth had begun, and despite the overwhelming odds, despite the superior technology and numbers of their enemy, humanity would not go quietly into the night. In laboratories and command centers, in hidden factories and training grounds, 8 billion humans prepared for the fight of their lives. The Hegemony Alliance had come to destroy them. They would learn why that was their greatest mistake. The image spread across the galaxy faster than light. A golden dreadnought, the symbol of Velkari power for centuries, broken and burning in Earth's orbit. Every conquered world, every slave species, every being who had lived in fear saw it. The impossible had happened. The Empire could be beaten. Ambassador Jin Young Moon stood before the Galactic Communications Array on Earth's moon. In the past, only Velkari were allowed to use this technology. Now she prepared to send a message that would change everything. Citizens of the galaxy, she began. I am Jin Young Moon of Earth. 1 week ago, the Velkari Empire demanded our surrender. Today, their fleet lies broken in our space. But we do not speak to you as new conquerors. We speak as fellow beings who understand the weight of chains. She paused, choosing her words carefully. To all who suffer under the Empire's rule, we say this. You are not alone. Rise up, fight back, and if you need help, Earth stands ready. The message went out to thousands of worlds, and thousands of worlds responded. On Kepler 442b, the Thraxians had served the Velkari for 50 years. When they heard Jin Young's message, they looked at their masters differently. The Velkari guards seemed smaller somehow, less frightening. The rebellion started in a factory. Workers refused to build weapons for their oppressors. When guards tried to force them, the Thraxians fought back. They had numbers. They had rage, and now they had hope. Within days, Kepler 442b was free. On Ross 128b, the gentle Melodians had been enslaved for their ability to calculate hyperspace routes. The Velkari had worked them to death in navigation centers. Now those same Melodians turned their knowledge against their captors. They sent Velkari supply ships into black holes. They guided warships into asteroid fields. They stranded entire fleets in empty space with no way home. The Empire's logistics collapsed in weeks. Back on Earth, Admiral Park faced a new challenge. Velkari prisoners, thousands of them from destroyed or surrendered ships. Many humans wanted revenge for Europa. Some demanded executions. No, Admiral Park told the angry crowds. We're better than that. We treat prisoners with dignity. That's what separates us from them. The Velkari prisoners expected torture. They got medical care and food instead. It confused them more than any cruelty would have. Dr. Jiwoo Kim didn't rest after victory. She knew Earth's quantum jump technology was the key to keeping humanity safe, but she also knew hoarding it would make Earth just another empire. We share it, she told the World Council. Every free world gets the technology. We spread it so wide that no empire can ever dominate again. Some argued against her. Why give away their advantage? But Jiwoo stood firm. We won because someone believed the impossible was just physics we hadn't understood yet. Other species deserved that same chance. Her first student was a former Velkari engineer. He had surrendered after the battle, his faith in the Empire shattered. Now he wanted to learn to understand how humans had done the impossible. Your shield frequencies, Jiwoo explained. You never changed them because they always worked. But in science, what always works today might fail tomorrow. You must always question, always improve. The Velkari engineer listened like a child learning to walk. Captain Soo-Jin Lee took the Horizon on a new mission. Not war, but rescue. Across the galaxy, Velkari forces were trapped on hostile worlds. Cut off from supplies, surrounded by angry populations, they faced massacre. We're taking you to neutral space, she told one group of Velkari soldiers. You can start new lives there, or you can try to rebuild your empire. But if you choose that path, remember what happened at Earth. Most chose new lives. The Empire was dead. They could see that now. Young-Soo Bei led Squadron Delta on patrol missions, but they found few enemies. The Velkari military was collapsing faster than anyone predicted. Without the Emperor, without fear holding it together. The empire fragmented into thousands of pieces. Some Velkari warlords tried to carve out personal kingdoms. They didn't last long. Free worlds with quantum jump drives made short work of would-be tyrants. Dr. Yoonji Han studied the fallen empire, trying to understand how it had lasted so long. The answer was simple and sad. They stopped growing, she reported. Once they conquered their first few worlds, they never improved. Same ships, same weapons, same tactics for centuries. They confused fear for strength. And we? Admiral Park asked. We never stop growing. It's human nature. We see a problem, we solve it. We face the impossible, we make it possible. That's why we won. 3 months after the battle, something amazing happened. A ship arrived at Earth carrying representatives from 37 species. They came to thank humanity, but also to learn. Ambassador Jin Young welcomed them all. The gallery looked like something from a dream. Tall crystalline Altarians stood next to small furry Vegans. Four-armed Centaurians talked with floating Andromedans. You did more than break our chains, the Altarian speaker said. You showed us we could break them ourselves. For that the galaxy thanks you. But Jin Young shook her head. We showed you nothing you didn't already have: courage, hope, the will to be free. These aren't human traits. They're universal. The meeting lasted weeks. By its end, the framework for something new had emerged. Not an empire, but an alliance. The Galactic Council, they called it. Where every species had a voice. Where technology was shared. Where the strong protected the weak instead of enslaving them. Earth was offered leadership of this new council. They refused. We'll take a seat like everyone else, Admiral Park said. No single world should lead. We'll succeed together or not at all. Colonel Hyunwoo Ryu was honored posthumously. His boarding action had uploaded the virus that ended the battle. But more importantly, his sacrifice inspired others. Across the galaxy, memorials rose to the 1,000 heroes of Earth. But the real memorial was the freedom they had won. Mi Suk Jang took over the Quantum Jump Institute from Dr. Jiwoo, who wanted to return to pure research. Mi Suk's first act was to open enrollment to all species. Physics has no nationality, she said. Neither should knowledge. Within a year, scientists from 50 worlds worked together, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They developed medical scanners that could heal any disease, energy sources that would never run out, technologies that turned desert worlds into gardens. The Velkari, meanwhile, faced justice. Not the justice of conquest, but something harder. They had to face their victims, had to hear the pain they had caused, had to understand what they had done. Some Velkari couldn't accept it. They fled to the galaxy's edge, clinging to dreams of renewed empire. But most, especially the young, chose a different path. They joined the council. They shared their knowledge. They worked to repair the damage their empire had caused. It would take generations, but healing had begun. Captain Min Jung-oh retired from the military. She had seen enough war. Instead, she started a shipping company using jump-capable freighters. Within months, trade flowed between worlds that had been isolated for centuries. Commerce brings peace, she said. When worlds depend on each other, they don't fight. She was right. The new galactic economy boomed. Art, science, and culture flowed freely. Species that had never met became partners and friends. 1 year after the battle, Emperor Thaxavil's throne room was converted into a museum. Beings from across the galaxy came to see where tyranny had died. But the most popular exhibit wasn't about the Emperor at all. It was a simple photo. Admiral Park pressing the button that launched Operation Quantum Storm. One human, one moment, one action that changed everything. The plaque beneath it read, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite that fear. Let all who see this remember, no empire is eternal. No chains are unbreakable. No odds are insurmountable." Taeyang Shin, the scout who had mapped the enemy fleet, became an explorer. He took his tiny ship to the galaxy's unknown regions, seeking new life, new civilizations. He named every world he found after the heroes of Europa, ensuring they would never be forgotten. 5 years passed. The galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Where once the Empire's iron fist had ruled, now 1,000 flowers bloomed. Each world developed its own culture while sharing in the greater community. Dr. Jiwoo Kim, now elderly but still brilliant, gave a speech at the 5th anniversary of the battle. They laughed at us, she said, called us primitive, said we were nothing, but we knew something they had forgotten. We knew that impossible is just another word for Not yet done. We knew that together we could do anything. She paused, looking at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. The Empire thought they were strong because they could destroy. But true strength creates. It lifts up. It shares, it hopes. That's what we've built together. Not a human galaxy, but a free galaxy. The crowd erupted in cheers, not just from human throats, but from 100 different species, all united in one truth. They were free. Admiral Park, retired now, watched from his garden in Korea. His granddaughter played with a Melodian child, their laughter mixing in the afternoon air. This was what they had fought for. Not conquest, but this, children playing together without fear. His aide from the war, Dong-hyun, now an admiral himself, sat beside him. Any regrets, sir? Dong-hyun asked. Park thought of the friends lost. The price paid. The weight of command. Then he looked at the children again.